YoungBoy's massive tour made a dramatic and unexpected stop in New Orleans, and what happened after the concert quickly turned into viral chaos. Following the show, YoungBoy was spotted walking through the city streets surrounded by hundreds of fans screaming his name, cameras flashing, and phones recording every move. But the night took a shocking twist when footage later surfaced showing the rapper appearing to beg his Opps not to kill him. So what really happened that night? Let's break it all down. When concerts turn into chaos. It's the early morning hours of October 20th, 2025, and downtown New Orleans is on the verge of complete pandemonium. What unfolds becomes a moment that perfectly captures the intense, sometimes dangerous relationship between one of hip-hop's hottest rappers and his fiercely loyal fan base. What began as a victorious homecoming show for NBA YoungBoy was about to spiral into a scene of pure, unfiltered madness sparking viral clips, wild headlines, and serious questions about what happens when fan love crosses a line into real danger. Just hours earlier, the Smoothie King Center had been absolutely electric as YoungBoy took the stage for his first Louisiana performance in 7 years. This wasn't just another tour stop. The massive tour short for Make America Slime again felt more like a cultural moment. Green lights flooded the arena, his signature color glowing everywhere, as the crowd rapped every lyric word for word, feeding off his energy. Tickets sold out fast, fueled by his massive influence and the rarity of seeing him perform in his home state. By midnight, the show wrapped without any issues, and for a brief moment, it looked like the night had gone perfectly. But that calm didn't last long. Sometime between 1 and 2 a.m. on Monday, October 20th ironically, YoungBoy's 26th birthday, the rapper made a move that would flip the entire night upside down. Instead of heading straight to safety, he decided to take a casual walk through downtown New Orleans. He was moving with a small circle of about 8 people, no visible professional security, no bodyguards, no barricades, just YoungBoy and his day one crew walking through the city that raised him. His walk reportedly began near Canal Street and Bourbon Street, 2 of the busiest, most unpredictable spots in the French Quarter, especially late at night. Footage from the scene shows YoungBoy dressed low-key in a black jacket and shades, moving confidently through Canal Street. At first, the energy stayed calm, just a few fans approaching for pictures, quick shout-outs, and love. But as word spread rapidly, likely fueled by social media posts and lingering concert hype, the crowd began to grow fast. What started as a small group quickly exploded into hundreds of fans flooding the area, spilling onto Bourbon Street and surrounding him completely. The situation escalated in seconds as people pushed forward, screaming his name and trying to get close, creating a packed mob that restricted movement and turned the streets into pure chaos for YoungBoy and his crew.
Squad.
That's when officers from the New Orleans Police Department, who had already been strategically positioned throughout the area due to pre-planned security measures tied to the concert, moved in fast as the situation continued to escalate. Video from the scene captured by Project NOLA surveillance cameras along with dozens of cell phone recording from bystanders shows police forming a human protective corridor around NBA YoungBoy, creating space to shield him from the growing pressure of the crowd. Roughly 4 to 6 officers can be seen holding him by the arms, shoulders, and upper body, physically guiding and at times lifting him backward through the mass of fans toward a vehicle waiting nearby. At in one of the most widely circulated clips, YoungBoy appears visibly resistant to the escort, seeming reluctant to leave the area so suddenly. He is seen and heard expressing a desire to continue moving through the city, while officers remain focused on one priority: getting him out safely before the situation spirals further. The entire intervention lasted only a few minutes, with police successfully moving him through the crowd without using force beyond necessary physical guidance. No weapons were drawn. No aggressive crowd control tactics were deployed. YoungBoy was placed into the vehicle without incident, officially bringing the brief but intense frenzy to an end. Most importantly, the NOPD later released an official statement confirming that no criminal activity took place, no arrests were made, and the incident was strictly a crowd control response aimed at protecting public safety. However, the chaos in New Orleans wasn't an isolated incident. That night was simply the latest chapter in a growing pattern of disorder that had followed NBA YoungBoy throughout his massive tour. The tour, which kicked off on September 1st, 2025 at the American Airlines Center in Dallas and was scheduled to wrap on November 12th in Seattle, had been plagued by serious security concerns, venue disruptions, crowd altercations, and outside threats almost from the very beginning. The issue surfaced early on September 10, 2025, during the second tour stop at Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles. As YoungBoy launched into Lonely Child, a full-blown brawl broke out among fans in the stands. Viral videos captured chaotic shoving and punches flying inside the packed 20,000-seat venue. The fight forced brief pauses in the performance as arena security rushed in to restore order. Despite the disturbance, no arrests were made and the show eventually continued. Then came Kansas City, where the situation took an even darker and more disturbing turn. On September 21, 2025, at the T-Mobile Center, a 14-year-old fan allegedly attacked a 66-year-old usher. Viral footage shows the teen punching and kicking the staff member before being restrained by security. The elderly usher later spoke with local news, describing the terrifying moments after being knocked onto his back and repeatedly jumped on, saying the only thought running through his mind was whether he would make it out alive.
So we were in essence trying to protect the fan.
The venue's vice president of sales and marketing later released a statement highlighting the injuries sustained by multiple staff members, noting that several team members required on-site first aid before being transported to local hospitals for further treatment. This wasn't just reckless or rowdy behavior, it was outright violence, leading to immediate arrests and renewed calls for stricter age restrictions at future tour stops. But the most significant disruption came just days later. On September 24, 2025, Chicago's United Center abruptly canceled the scheduled NBA YoungBoy concert only one day before showtime. The venue cited an inability to guarantee the safety of fans after receiving intelligence about potential gun violence tied to YoungBoy's ongoing beef with Chicago-based rapper Lil Durk. Fans who had already arrived and entered the arena were turned away at the doors, sparking widespread frustration and backlash from both attendees and YoungBoy's camp. YoungBoy's manager publicly criticized the venue on social media, accusing United Center officials of a last-minute bailout, while Ticketmaster began processing refunds for thousands of disappointed fans. Prior to the cancellation, the venue had announced plans to enforce an unusually strict zero-bag policy, not the standard clear bag rule that allows small see-through bags, but a complete ban on all bags of any kind. Even that extreme security measure proved insufficient. After several days of review, United Center officials ultimately decided to shut the show down entirely rather than take the risk, choosing not to move forward under any circumstances.
That wasn't the topic.
Well, you said stop it to shout him out.
Go ahead, I'm talking shit, man.
So yeah, he was supposed to have a show, Chicago United Center. YoungBoy was involved with the beef, whatever, with Durk, which led to Vaughn's passing. It's his first time in Chicago since. Of course, they've been all on the internet saying whatever. So the first thing happened, the Chicago Center puts out an update and says, listen, we're doing a zero bag policy at this show. Normally at shows, they have a clear bag policy. The little book bags, the little handbag, as long as it's clear, they can see through it, you can bring that bag in. It was like, for this particular show, no bags allowed whatsoever. We're not playing. And then like a couple days went by and the Chicago Center just said, we canceling the show. Okay. We're not even doing it. So they deaded the show.
The chaos didn't stop, the recap coming. On October 13, 2025, in Columbia, South Carolina, at the Colonial Life Arena, NBA YoungBoy was forced to stop his performance mid-set after a fan repeatedly threw objects onto the stage. Visibly irritated, YoungBoy addressed the crowd directly, making it clear where he stood. This is a YoungBoy show. Don't play with me tonight. Security immediately identified and removed the individual, and after a tense 5-minute pause, the concert resumed under heightened alert in response to the growing pattern of threats and disruptions. Venues and local law enforcement agencies began rolling out increasingly aggressive security measures across the remaining legs of the tour. For the New Orleans shows, NOPD Assistant Superintendent Hans Ganthia announced a massive security operation that included the deployment of more than 400 officers, tactical response units, surveillance drones, and armored vehicles throughout the central business district and the French Quarter, paired with a strict no-bag policy. Ganthia also issued a public warning urging attendees to leave firearms at home, cautioning that weapons left in vehicles could lead to burglaries and additional crimes. Despite the mounting chaos, at least 4 full show cancellations and countless police interventions, the tour never completely lost momentum. By mid-October, YoungBoy had already performed in more than 30 cities, and his fan base remained fiercely loyal and deeply committed. Industry commentators noted that before anyone could properly critique or measure his influence, they needed to give him his respect and recognize just how powerful and emotional his connection with fans truly is. But to understand why his concert attracts such intense, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous energy, you have to look deeper into the man behind the music and the criminal history that helped shape both his sound and his public image to a life defined by legal battles. Kentrell Deshaun Golden didn't choose the circumstances of his birth, but those circumstances would define nearly everything that followed. Born on October 20th, 1999, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, YoungBoy grew up surrounded by poverty, family instability, and street violence. These weren't distant influences, they were everyday realities. Raised primarily by his maternal grandmother in a cramped Section 8 apartment, his childhood was further shaped by the absence of his father, who was incarcerated for murder, and a mother who struggled with addiction. This wasn't an upbringing designed for success. It was an upbringing that tested survival itself. YoungBoy's criminal history began surfacing during his teenage years, rooted in the high-crime environment of Baton Rouge North Side. At just 15 years old in 2015, he was arrested on a charge of simple robbery after allegedly taking part in a street stick-up. The case resulted in a 6-month stint in juvenile detention. Court record from the time describe a judge viewing the incident as a critical turning point. YoungBoy later reflected in interviews that the isolation forced him to confront his future, pushing him to channel fear, anger, and uncertainty into music centered around pain, vulnerability, and escape. But that was only the beginning. Released on his 16th birthday, YoungBoy quickly turned his experiences into viral freestyles that began gaining serious traction online. However, trouble followed him again in 2016 during a stop in Austin, Texas. Police accused YoungBoy and 3 associates of firing shots into a crowd from a vehicle in an alleged drive-by shooting. All 4 were charged with 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder, offenses that carried potential sentences of up to 40 years under Texas law. The case relied heavily on witness statements and ballistic evidence linking shell casings to their vehicle. YoungBoy's defense team argued mistaken identity, claiming the chaos stemmed from a confrontation involving a rival group. Ultimately, he accepted a plea deal that reduced the charges to aggravated assault with a firearm. He received a suspended 10-year sentence, 9 months in county jail, and 3 years of probation. BY 2018. As YoungBoy's career exploded with platinum records and a major deal with Atlantic Records, his music was dominating the charts, but his legal issues and personal controversies were beginning to dominate headlines just as heavily. The most infamous incident unfolded in February of that year at a Miami hotel, where surveillance footage captured NBA YoungBoy in a disturbing altercation with his then-girlfriend, Jania Jackson. The video, which later leaked and spread rapidly across social media, appears to show YoungBoy grabbing Jackson by the hair, dragging her across the hotel lobby, and forcing her into an elevator while shouting profanities as she repeatedly pleaded for him to stop. The graphic footage sparked immediate national backlash, with advocacy groups and commentators condemning the incident as a glaring example of domestic violence and toxic masculinity within hip-hop culture. Prosecutors charged YoungBoy with battery, simple assault, and false imprisonment. After spending roughly 1 month in custody, he posted a $75,000 bond. The case was ultimately resolved through a plea agreement that included probation and mandatory anger management counseling, allowing him to avoid further jail time while remaining under court supervision. But that case would soon be overshadowed by a much larger legal storm. The federal escalation that would come to define the next 5 years of his life began in late 2020. On September 29th, 2020, Baton Rouge police stopped a vehicle carrying YoungBoy and 14 other individuals. During the search, officers reportedly discovered 2 AR-15 style rifles, a handgun, and more than 100 rounds of ammunition items that were illegal for YoungBoy to possess due to his status as convicted felon. Federal authorities alleged that the group had ties to the NBA street gang, citing tattoos, custom jewelry, social media posts, and intercepted communications connected to ongoing violent turf disputes in Louisiana. YoungBoy was subsequently indicted on federal charges of being a felon in possession of firearms and possessing unregistered weapons, offenses carrying a potential sentence of up to 10 years in prison. However, his arrest warrant initially went unexecuted after he relocated to Los Angeles. That changed dramatically on March 22, 2021. FBI agents attempted to arrest YoungBoy in Los Angeles, triggering a high-speed chase that ended in a dramatic SWAT standoff. The takedown resulted in additional state charges and marked a turning point in his legal saga. Court documents later revealed the FBI's internal name for the investigation operation Never Free Our Green pointed reference to his Never Broke Again brand. His legal team argued the name demonstrated prosecutorial bias and a targeted vendetta against his success. As part of a subsequent plea arrangement, YoungBoy was transferred to strict house arrest in Utah in 2021. Despite being confined to his residence, he continued releasing music remotely, maintaining chart dominance while navigating the courts. Still, compliance issues and alleged violations continued to pile up in April 2024, while under electronic monitoring at his Huntsville, Utah mansion. YoungBoy was implicated by authorities as the alleged ringleader of a large-scale prescription drug fraud scheme. According to affidavits filed by the Cache County Sheriff's